Joining me now is Christina Bobb, attorney for President Trump, who was on site for that raid. Christina, thank you for joining us tonight. Does President Trump support or oppose the release of the affidavit?
Well, President Trump has been very straightforward in that he supports all transparency through this process, and he wants what's best for the American people, and he's going to rely on the courts to do the right thing.
So he will not then submit, or you will not submit, a motion to the court to release the affidavit in opposition to what the government said today?
We support what Judicial Watch has started. We're watching it very closely, trying to gauge what's happening, and we'll respond accordingly. So I don't have an exact answer today. We're watching the situation and seeing how it develops, and we'll respond in a way that we think is best for the American people.
So no determination on that as of now, because that is the most crucial piece of information, because that document apparently establishes, they say, probable cause. It includes sensitive information. The government's arguing they don't want to compromise, I guess, cooperating witnesses. And it's so far, it's their case against President Trump such that it is.
Right. You're exactly right. And supposedly it does have probable cause in it. I find that a little bit hard to believe. Obviously, a judge signed it, but knowing the background in the situation, I don't think there is probable cause to do what they did. So I am myself curious to see what's in it, and we're looking forward to seeing how this all plays out.
But you're not. I mean, I don't know. Given the president's comments earlier, we would think that he would want it all out there so everyone can see it in the light of day. I'm still not following. What would the concern be on your part for not having it released?
No, we are supporting it. I'm not aware of any effort to oppose it. We just are following the lead of the case that's already going and watching to see what happens in response to it. But
okay, fair
he
enough.
Absolutely, yeah.
Fair. So he's not opposing its release, but he's not going to urge that it be released. Is that a correct characterization?
I would say that's a fair assessment at this point, yes.
Okay. On the issue of the passports, which to me is just another ridiculous wrinkle here. Earlier today, the president said that the FBI stole his 3 passports, 1 expired, that it's an assault on a political opponent at a level never seen before in our country. And apparently you told our producers just before the show that the passports have now been picked up. So you got them back, 2 expired, 1's the diplomatic passport that every former president gets to keep in his possession. What's your view on this? Was this was just an honest mistake? Were they in a drawer?
I don't know about any honest. I won't give them that much credit at this point. I think this goes to show the level of audacity that they have. If you're going to execute a raid on the primary residence of the President of the United States, you need to do it perfectly. There's no room for error. And when our Fourth Amendment rights are at stake as a nation, you cannot be flippant in any way. So I don't give them a pass as this was a simple mistake. I think it goes to show how aggressive they were, how overreaching they were, that they were willing to go past the 4 corners of the warrant and take whatever they felt was appropriate or they felt that they could take, and then go back through and look through everything. And once they realized, oh, whoops, maybe we went a little too far, then negotiate the return of it. And that's absolutely not the way a warrant is supposed to be executed. So, no, I think they were wrong and basically got caught.
Where were the passports? Were they in a safe? Were they in a drawer, a box? I mean, where were they?
I don't actually know. They were probably in the office, I would assume, because that makes the most sense. But again, they didn't disclose where they picked things up, so I can't say for certain.
Now, in his first interview since the raid, the president told Fox News Digital that people are so angry at what is taking place, whatever we can do to help, the temperature has to be brought down in the country. If it isn't, terrible things are going to happen. What did the president mean by terrible things are going to happen?
I think he just is looking at what's happening in the country and realizing the angst that people are going through. I think he's saddened by the frustration that Americans are facing and realizing that their government has been hijacked by radicals that don't care about the American people and don't care about our quality of life and our culture. As a culture, this is a new step that we've never experienced before, and a level, to some extent, of fear in the nation that the government's becoming overreaching. And I think I think he's concerned about that devolution of our culture and what we hold sacred. That is what I believe. I didn't specifically ask him that question, but that would be my understanding, that he doesn't like the direction that the country's going.
Well, of course, the left is jumping on it, saying the president's intimating that people could commit violence, be another January 6th. But you're saying that that's not what you believe
Not
he was
at
getting
all.
at.
President
It was a
Trump
corrosive effect on the government.
Correct. Not at all. President Trump loves this country, and he's never supported violence, although the left has. So I think it's a bit hypocritical and ironic that they would try to throw that narrative out when he has been peaceful and brought peace to the world and peace to this nation, and is trying to bring peace to this nation. He reached out to Merrick Garland and said, anything I can do after you raided my personal residence. Sorry, this is through his attorneys, but he wanted a specific message to Merrick Garland. This was not them directly, but saying, I want Merrick Garland to know that I support bringing this nation together and lowering the temperature, as you said. What can I do? My resources are at your disposal. I'm willing to do anything. And the DOJ ignored it. They didn't respond. That was on Thursday morning. And then a few hours later, Merrick Garland gave a 3-minute press brief where he didn't even bother to disclose to the American public that President Trump was trying to be helpful in the situation.
Well, what specifically was President Trump suggesting? Everyone wants to bring the temperature down. I think that's a noble, desire, of course. But what specifically does he propose that he can do at this point?
Sure. Well, I think he was looking at it saying the American people don't trust the FBI or DOJ. They lied about Russia. They lied about Crossfire Hurricane. They lied to Congress. Comey lied to Congress. McCabe lied to everybody. They lied to the FISA court. The American people rightfully don't trust the FBI right now and don't trust the Department of Justice, but they do trust President Trump. And he has a big platform. He has a big following. And so I think it was a genuine olive branch to say, I'm trying to help this country. They don't trust you, but they trust me. What can we do? And they ignored it.
Well, short of dropping the case, I'm not sure what Merrick Garland would do at this point. Right? Just drop. Let's move on. I don't know what the Justice Department's going to do. They're not in favor of releasing the affidavit. We know that.
Right. But I think it would go a long way to just show that they care, that they are putting this nation through angst. The American people are frustrated and angry. Well, they love Donald Trump, and no one believes that this is a real case. They believe it's a witch hunt. And so any attempt to come together, I think, is fair.
Christina, we really appreciate your joining us tonight. Thank you very much.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.